Let's talk about faith and public policy. The left hates nothing more. The left wants to secularize everything. They try to intimidate and ridicule any public official who ever publicizes the fact they're a Christian. That is, anyone for whom faith is not just a label, but a way of life. But there are those who boldly hold to their faith regardless of the criticism. And one of those men is Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State under President Donald Trump, who advanced the United States as a world leader in protecting religious freedom. Before that, he served as director of the CIA and as a member of Congress from Kansas. We had a conversation at the Pray Vote Stand Summit, and here it is.
Secretary, I just want to ask you about the issue of faith. I mean, that's what we're talking about here this week, and its integration with our public walk. You did that so well.
Well, Tony, first of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity. It's great to be with you. I can feel the energy from where I am, so God bless you all. It's absolutely imperative that those of us who understand the history of our nation, our Judeo-Christian founding, and who share a faith in Jesus Christ, don't ever suggest to anyone that those two can fundamentally be separated in the way that so many on the left want to do that. I tried to live this every day. It doesn't mean I got it right every day. My goodness, we made mistakes all along the way. But every day we worked, my wife and I turned to the Bible every day. I prayed every day. You all talk about pray, vote, stand. Every day I tried to stand for the things that were right for America, but knowing all the while that while it was important because America is the most exceptional nation in history to get it right for our country, that there was a higher purpose, that there was a man in charge, and if we got that piece of it wrong, if we walked away from that central understanding of Jesus Christ as our Savior, then there was nothing that was going to be possible. We wouldn't be successful in delivering the things that every human being needed America to deliver.
But that mindset has not been something that's been prevalent at the State Department. In fact, there's been this secular mindset, which has, I think, quite frankly, has made foreign policy difficult for us as a country because 80% of the world sees events through some lens of faith.
Well, Tony, you've seen it up close and personal working on these religious freedom issues yourself, serving on the commission. It is really important that the leader of the State Department do this, but not just the leader, that people all across the State Department get this right. And for an awful long time, that's not been the case. I think it's true throughout all of our government. We have secularized in a way that presents real risk to our republic. And this isn't just about Christians. We worked hard to promote religious freedom for Baha'is and for Muslims. I worked diligently on behalf of the Uyghur Muslims in Western China to try and create space for them and to convince the Chinese Communist Party to cease their abusing of them because of their faith, right? This is the reason that they are being attacked, the same way that Christians in China are being attacked. It is absolutely imperative. Countries can see this, whether they're Islamic countries or the State of Israel, the Jewish homeland. They respect people who are disciplined in their faith, who defend it, who are accepting and tolerant of everyone who wants to practice their faith, and even of those who choose not to practice theirs, but permit the people to worship in the way that they so desire. Those are the countries that have proven successful over time. It's the work that we did, and the State Department made real progress on this during my time. I think it's most unfortunate that I'm guessing that most of the work that we did will try to be undone by this administration.
Well, you also shortly, within months of coming to the State Department, hosted the first ever meeting on international religious freedom there at the State Department. It had, I think, 110 different countries or more, maybe, for that first gathering. I will say this, in fact, was having a conversation earlier today with an ambassador from another country, and I think that work has gained some traction with other countries that know that this is important to America, even though it may not be important to this administration.
I think we made a difference in lots of countries in the world. Not all of them have the standard for religious freedom that we do here. They're not backed up by a constitution, a First Amendment that protects our right to do that, and an enforcement set of tools that can protect it. But we made real progress in lots of small places across the world. And we worked to defend and help persecuted peoples all across the world, persecuted Christians in Iraq, the work that we did in Myanmar and Burma. These were important places where we actually made a difference. You talked about this gathering for religious leaders. Tony, you were there at the first one and at the second one that we did. It's really unfortunate. These were the largest human rights gatherings ever at the State Department. And this year we tried to repeat it, but we had to do it in the private sector. We had to do it outside of the State Department. And that's great. In the end, our faith institutions need to stand on their own 2 feet. But in the end, our United States government also has a proper role in promoting religious freedom around the world. So it's unfortunate that our current leadership in the United States doesn't value this nearly as highly as they value working on climate change and a host of other issues that have been raised and promoted well above the simple ask of every nation to permit their own people to worship in the way that they so choose.
Mike, in the wake of what happened in Afghanistan, the debacle there in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, you mentioned China. Do you have a greater concern about China today than when you were Secretary of State?
Tony, I do, but I would say 2 things. One, not directly related to Afghanistan, at least in the short run. China will certainly benefit from the debacle that was our departure from Afghanistan. And for any veterans or moms and dads who have kids that are serving, please go home and thank them for what they did in Afghanistan. It was amazing work. It was noble work. It kept the United States safe for 2 decades, and they should be proud of the work that they did in Afghanistan. We should never forget that the terrible I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I saw the takedown terror plots that might well have come to our shores. Bless them for every inch that they gave the United States and the risk that they took. We shouldn't let the debacle undermine that good work. It will certainly be the case the countries in the region, and that includes China that has a significant border with Afghanistan, will be emboldened. But I must say a bigger ramification is really the second level, which is that what the Chinese saw in Afghanistan was an administration that wasn't prepared to live up to American promises and defend American interests. They saw it when they saw first when the Iranians launched missiles into Israel out of the Gaza Strip, and the United States did little but issue a press release. And then the Russians wanted to build a pipeline, putting Europe at risk, and this administration said, "Yep, go ahead and do that." And now you can see the Chinese Communist Party emboldened. They've flown more than 150 airplanes into Taiwanese air defense zone in the last week alone. They are testing the world. They're testing this administration, and a press release or a statement is not going to stop Xi Jinping. He killed 3 million people by covering up a virus. He is not going to let a press release from the United States Department of State stop him from what he views as the important effort to bring Taiwan into the Chinese Communist Party's fold.
We could go down a list of just what's happened in the last 9 months that runs counter to what you were doing when you were Secretary of State and what the previous administration did, but I don't want to go down that route. We can read the paper and see all of that. I want to focus rather on giving you the opportunity to speak to these men and women of faith from across the country that are gathered here in Leesburg, Virginia, really the epicenter of a battle over public education and the indoctrination of our children. What is the word of encouragement and of challenge that you have for these folks here?
Well, I'm enormously encouraged, Tony. I've traveled now all across the country these last 8.5 months. I've done 45 or 50 different events where I've had the chance to meet and talk to folks, and the energy is enormous. You have pray, vote, stand. I promise you every one of those people is going to vote. I know they were all praying. We prayed together. And I want to spend just a minute talking about stand, because I've seen something that I haven't seen since, frankly, 2010 when I first ran for Congress, when we saw what Barack Obama was trying to do to the country, a radical pro-abortion, left-wing social agenda. I think people can see that this is what the Biden administration is bringing as well. And so stand. I've seen people say, Mike, I've never been to a school board meeting. My kids are out of school. I'm going to run for school board. Seen people say, I've never been to a city council meeting or a PTA meeting before. I'm going to go. I think Americans all across this country saw that what's going on in our educational institutions, certainly in our K through 12 schools and in our colleges and universities, I think they can see that this undermines our republic when you're teaching the 1619 Project and not the idea of our history and our Bible and our founding. This is really dangerous for our country. And so it is a thrill for me to see people to gather together tonight, both in person and online, who are prepared to stand. I know you'll all go vote, but prepared to stand, prepared to say, no, that's just not right. We're not going to let them bring that garbage into our schools. We're not going to let them undermine our nation. The idea that our nation was founded as a racist country is fundamentally inconsistent with what we know our history to be. And when we have governors say that, the bars can be open, but our churches have to be closed, we're just not going to let that go on.
That's right.
And I see enormous energy all across the country, people who are standing, who are just simply saying, enough, I'm going to get engaged. I'm going to defend the truths that I know, that my Bible teaches me. And I'm convinced that there will be a renaissance, a revival all across America of good people, faithful people all across this country, standing up to reclaim their nation and put us on the path so that the next 245 years can be just as exceptional as our nation's first 245.
You're listening to a special edition of Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. You've been listening to an interview with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from our Pray Vote Stand Summit this past October. If you want to hear more from the summit, well, visit prayvotestand.org/summit. We've got all the speakers archived there. That's prayvotestand.org/summit.